My worst fear, damn it. Over the last few months, hundreds of you have DM'd me to try out this build from Tonella Wood. This thing is absolutely amazing. It's a river table with geometric negative space, all clear resin. It looks like some kind of walnut. It's absolutely gorgeous. And with 2.4 million views, I've got to try it. This build does look complicated, and I have built a bunch of river tables, so it's right up my alley, but I do have a few apprehensions. First and foremost, how the hell did they get all of these geometric shapes in negative space and get everything to line up perfectly? We got to figure that out. Secondly, the resin is so clear. That is so hard to do. So we're gonna have to do some major prep on this project to eliminate bubbles. And lastly, this thing is like crystal, which means hours of polishing are ahead. I'm really looking forward to it. So let's work out how we're gonna get this design in the tabletop first and then go pick a slab. We're gonna approach this like I would a standard river table. We'll have our form that's going to set the width and the length of the table. And then inside of it, we're just gonna go ahead like we always would and put some slabs in there. But before we pour anything, I think the way they do it, and they take these shapes, boy, those are hideous, and they cut out the negative space between them, right? So as this thing goes around, excuse my rudimentary childish drawing, Ron, please don't get upset. You'll see that the negative space then becomes filled with the same resin as up here. And once you watch the video, which will pop up on screen, there's a really cool effect that they get. So we need to figure out how we're gonna lay those out. Couple problems though. We have to be perfectly flat. So I'll have to prep these slabs a little bit more than I normally do when I do a river table. Second, we've got to fasten them down into the mold so we can CNC everything in the mold so it doesn't move. And then we've got to figure out how we're going to lay these things out, because it's going to be very specific to like the way that the live edge lands inside the table and the way that the specific pieces of wood that we choose go with this table. So layout's the next thing. Ron, what do you think?
Let's get this over with.
Nothing's planned there. But I do think to solve this layout problem, I'm gonna have Chris burn out a couple templates on the laser cutter so I can lay things out. And while he's doing that, I'm gonna go prep some slabs. Let's go. All right, so we just got a bunch of new slabs in for the lumber mill, mostly oak, white oak, little poplar.
What are you doing?
I don't think I wanna go with something that light. If you're looking for something like that, you gotta check out JJ Lumber Co., link down in the description. We've got a ton of new inventory. I'm kind of leaning more towards the walnut look that they had. These white oak slabs would be cool, but our last river table was white oak. I think this is my bitch. We're a little bit over 2 inches thick, which should be plenty. Only issues we're gonna have is we got a little bit of metal in here, but I found my winner. Let's prep her. That's a lot heavier than it looked. We're looking about 30 inches wide on that side and a little under 26 on this side. That'll give us plenty of room to do like a 38 to 40 inch wide ride river table that we should get some awesome clarity in the center as well as a little bit on this live edge too. So first thing I want to do is cut this sucker down the middle like I typically do and make this thing a little bit more manageable. Got a few pieces of metal, which are nails, because you can see them coming through the other side. I'm trying to bang those out before we do anything else. I'm gonna skip plane these on each side. We gotta get that flat reference surface on the bottom. So I got these roughly down to like right over 2 inches. I actually left a little lip here because I just had it shimmied awkwardly in the planer. So I'm just gonna bring that down. Now for the fun part. This is the template. Hey Chris, these seem really big.
I think what happened is...
I don't care what happened. Are they bigger? You know what I mean?
Like, they're not bigger than the drawing.
Okay, can we cut another one?
Yeah, I can cut another one.
I think it needs to be like 25% bigger, because that's just a lot. It's all of this. Yeah, I think maybe go to 5. So while Chris works on that design, as you can see, I already put a form together. Now I'll clean up the edges on this to keep the ball rolling. All right, the temp trace. Everything's kind of copacetic.
What did he say?
We just want to make sure that we like the sizing. Chris made some adjustments. Yeah, I think the size is good. And then we'll come down on the other side. And like, just like in the video.
That's gonna be super cool.
Yeah. Okay, these are about 2 inches thick. Right, so if we leave a 1/4 inch, we could plane a 1/4 inch off the top and the bottom and get us down to like 1.5 inches.
A 1/4 inch tabs at the bottom.
Yeah, that way we're not running so crazy deep. You could go down to 1/8. We could plane down, cut the outside profile.
Okay.
So I'm giving the mold a good wipe down with mineral spirits. When you're pouring crystal clear epoxy, it's just really important to keep your mold as absolutely clean as possible, right? Because all that's gonna show up in the resin. Then I'm hoping to get great adhesion with some double-sided tape on our slabs. Then I'll wipe it down again after we cut all the tool paths, blow it out with air, vacuum it. I'm gonna do everything I possibly can to keep as much dust and debris out of this clear resin, because that could be something that would completely ruin the look of this build. Now we're not gonna fully cut through, so in theory, this should work. Let's test fit her first. And this is why we test fit. Cool, this is it. So what I have to do now is send it.
You wiped it wet. I was gonna take a photo of kind of what you had, kind of match it up. I know the video. I know.
The video.
I know. I just wanted to see what you were doing with it, like where you stopped.
Just go do your best and then I'll come yell at you. Now I just gotta remember before I pour to put mold release in here. Don't let me forget. Leave it down in the comments. Yell at me. Come on. I know you guys like yelling at me. Chris got everything laid out and we realized because we're not gonna cut the whole way through our slabs, we're actually gonna leave about 1/8 of an inch of material at the bottom that we don't have to put them into the mold. So I'm gonna pop these out. And I'm actually gonna joint this edge to give a nice square reference surface, and then we're gonna put it straight on the bed of the CNC. Fortunately, it was only like 5 minutes of work, but all for naught. Now it's Chris's turn. I don't wanna hear any bullshit about that not being square or any of your little like, oh, it's not to the 30-second.
So I'm not sure what happened. I set the cut depth to 1 7/8 inch thick, and our material's 2 inches thick, so that should have left an 1/8 inch down to the bottom. For some reason, it was cutting almost all the way down to the bed, leaving a paper thin material, which was causing break off and pieces to come off. I'm not sure if we were getting bit slip or something like that, but I'm just gonna keep chugging along and just send it and see what happens. It's frustrating. It's like, 'cause I do everything, I double check everything, and yet it still f***s up.
Look, it's 100% your fault. We know that. I actually think it's gotta be a tool material thing.
So what I ended up doing was zeroing off the top of the material and then just kind of fudging the Z depth, so the zero off the top of the material, up like, I don't know, 1/10 of an inch. So that way, you know, that left a little more meat on the bottom and we weren't having things breaking off. You'll see the difference. So hopefully this goes better. It should.
Chris got these done and it looks a lot better. We're gonna clean up some of these broken edges. Like this one here, I'll have to completely remove everything here. If not, I'll pour clear resin on it and it'll be stuck in there forever and look like dog shit. And then we'll get this thing into the mold where we're gonna have to clamp it down somehow so it doesn't float. So we're close. Oh, I don't love it, but I think like it just looks like shit because it's in status shit. It's supposed to look geometric and geometric looks perfect. I'm nervous. Usually things start looking better as you get down the line, and we literally just made this look worse. And Chris decided to cut half the slab off down there, so. It's gonna be a lot of resin. There's a lot. Whose dumbass idea was it to make a dining table?
Yours.
Damn it. Well, I decided to do a dining table because all we've been doing is coffee tables, and I think I'm gonna regret it, except I'm not gonna regret the fact that one of you can take this home.
What's that?
We're giving this thing away after this video. You can enter to win. Links in the description tell you all the ways you can get entered. It's gonna run for a couple weeks, so you wanna jump on it now, immediately. All right, so it's kind of pivotal to make sure we have a level work surface. Let's accomplish that, and then we'll do some math. 12, 15, 17, so 13.5 gallons.
It's all gonna come up.
Well, the river alone needs 4 kits. But we gotta get everything held down first.
Just pour it all in, there's no like...
No. So my biggest concern, besides shit floating around, is dust. We want this thing to really look good, which is the goal, the ultimate goal. We need to have as much dust removed as we can possibly get. I would have loved it to seal everything first, and then we know we're not gonna get any debris. We try to put out as much content as possible, and it's Friday at 3 o'clock. And we want to pour this so it can set up this weekend and we can get it done for you guys for this video. So if it sucks, it's your fault. for not subscribing. I'm kidding, it's not your fault, it's my fault. It's always my fault.
This is how I plan on clamping things down. We've got these HDPE blocks, and then this is a
Call, more or less. It'll hold down the slab so it doesn't shift. Hopefully, the biggest thing to keep in mind if you do something like this is that the entire slab is going to want to come out of flat because we're putting clamping pressure across in places. So just be aware. Boy, did we get lucky with that one. So, a couple things that are going to go catastrophic, but we should be able to mitigate them. One, having some resin issues. Don't know why, but we don't got time for that bullshit. Ain't nobody got time for that. Two, dust. Didn't have time to seal any of this, so there could be some stuff that floats to the surface and looks like dog shit. Three, it is 72 degrees in here. We've got that thing ripping our Mr. Cool system, and we hope we don't explode it over the weekend. So all the stuff to do now is pour. Actually looking awesome. The epoxy ended up clearing up, so that issue seems to be mitigated. I'm just hoping I'm not carrying any dust around the table. All right, it's been 5 days-ish, and I'm gonna check on the hexagon table, see where that thing is. Last time I checked, it looked pretty good, so fingers crossed. My worst fear, damn it. Well, it's hard. Let's get out of this room and give it a look. I feel like it's bowed. Or there's something on the bottom. Or bowed. Oh boy.
It's like bowed like that.
This way.
Yeah.
That's a first. She ain't looking good, Chris. So we've got a bunch of micro bubbles inside here. And then also, this thing like cupped on the bottom of the mold. You were gonna say something positive?
No, I just...
Of course not. I bet you it's stuck on the bottom.
We put mold release, right?
It never happened.
But like it shouldn't be this bowed. I usually don't have that issue with 3/4 material in the mold to have anything like bowed. That's never happened before. And I've done bigger pours than this. Probably should have done a support grid underneath. Well, all we can do now is get it out and...
Oh yeah, look over here, it's higher up in the mold.
It floated. Did it float? I'm so confused. Tell you what, the rushing to get YouTube video done always f***s me. Every single f***ing time. Try to hit a posting schedule and just f*** me. This is not looking good. Well, let's start here. A lot of melamine stick. We're gonna be in for one, Sam. This stuff's still mush. See that? Yeah, I can like squish it with my fingers. We ain't milling today. Usually you could pop it out of the mold at least and let it sit. It is unfortunate. Yeah, it needs another day. Sad. I'm sad. Well, let's go look at the fucking problems in my other room.
We just got our ass totally kicked.
This is the fun part where you just get to break off melamine. This sucks. This sucks. This happens when it gets really hot, which it obviously did, because there's a shit ton of epoxy, but I've never had this warping of the melamine issue. I've had melamine stick before and not work. Like, that's why some guys will like completely Tyvek the bottom, but shit's like 20 bucks a roll. Roland, what do you pay for labor? Good point. Always wax the whole mold. There's some freaking crystals. It's very sad when you have to bust out your like amazing timber frame slick that you never get to use to do dumb shit like this. I need water. Okay, so after probably 30, 40 minutes, we're gonna get this thing a little bit more cleaned up and get it on the CNC. We'll flatten the back first. We wanna keep as much meat as we can on the top, but we have to come down a little bit because there was some overpour. We'll get it on the machine bed and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. The wood's sticking out of there, so if we can get this thing 1.25 inches, I'll be happy. So after about 2 hours of runtime, we're down to the wood and the epoxy on the top. It actually it's starting to look pretty rad. We do have to now surface the bottom to then let the light come through on these parts. So probably another hour at least to do that. This is a big table. and then we'll be looking at something that hopefully looks closer to what the damn video looks like. This thing's a ton of work. This might be the most work I've put into a tester. Just a little thinner than we would have liked, but we did have some issues on the mold. Still looking pretty rad. So I'm gonna cut it down to size. We're gonna get it through the wide belt, and then we're gonna start sanding because that's where this thing's really gonna come to life. Now we get to run it through sandy cheeks. Now for the fun part, we sand. Sam and I have been touching the top up here, came off the wide belt at 120. We did a 120 pass and then a 180 pass. Now it's time to see what she looks like. Are you ready? Not gonna lie, kinda cool. I mean, that's pretty sweet.
I think she's beautiful. Hidden beauty.
I kind of like it like matted and muted a little bit. Dude, that's rad.
Yeah.
That's pretty rad. So we'll wipe the mineral spirits off, that'll take the dust, we'll flip it, and then we'll get the bottom completely done and then flip it and come back to the top.
I'll see you tomorrow, maybe.
Having a bit of an issue here. This is the top. The base that I had designed is just a standard square bottom metal tube base. This table only came out to be 1 inch and a little over, like around 1/8 because of the issues we were having in that cupping. And I'm afraid the 2-inch tube that we have is just gonna be a little bit too beefy. When we mount it, I don't wanna cover up any of the clear. So I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. I'm gonna think on it, and then I'll come back to you with a solution. It's time to get finished on the top. This is the sweet elixir of the gods. Let us spray. So we hit the bottom with 4 coats, and then we let this sucker sit overnight, flip it over, and get working on the top. So after some deliberation, we came up with a base idea that I think is going to work pretty well. It started out with this concept here, which will still allow chairs to go on the sides, on the end caps if you'd like, but you can get at least 3 on each side with this little V here. I didn't like the boxiness of this kind of base itself, and then the first iteration of that turned into this, which has a little bit more taper, and we're going to build this sucker out of wood. The whole reason I'm going with this base here is because I want the center of the table to be able to be see-through and clear without having any brackets kind of floating across from it. I don't know. See what it looks like. It's the best that I got right now. Now we could do a black MDF panel with like walnut diamonds on top of it to kind of accent the black and the walnut on the top. I think I'm out of my step. I hate you, knockdown furniture. I hate you. My life is just a resistance. Okay, so Sam hit this sucker with our last flood coat before we're going to wet sand and buff up the center here. We want the middle to be nice and clear and the outsides, and we're gonna keep this like hazy look because that's what they do in the TikTok. The next thing though is that we've been working, and by we, I mean I've put probably 20 hours into this table base, and I just really don't like it. This thing's shimmying around a lot. Sometimes you just build shit and you get and you don't like it. So we're just gonna go with a metal base. We're gonna get started wet sanding this, and then I'm gonna whip up a base. All right, we're gonna start off on the bottom with a 500 grit wet sand, and we'll focus primarily on the river on the interior. We're buffing the finish, not the resin. The resin was already brought up to like 320 grit. And for us, an easier process to get it to clear up. We're just having a real hard time getting scratches out of resin, so this usually works for us. All right, all the parts are cut, everything's prepped. I'm mocking it up on the table. Gonna burn this sucker in to get this thing finished so we can finally reveal this damn table. A little bit of welding for you. Thank you, Lincoln. New Sam here rebuilt this drill press from scratch. And by scratch, I mean I bought it used on Facebook Marketplace, and we had to have some parts rebuild. We're gonna use it to drill these holes because it's so much nicer than doing it by hand. I need you to use words.
Beautiful old girl.
No, just tell me what you need me to. How much throw do we have on that? Yeah, we have plenty. And before we cut these holes, why don't you guys go check out one of these brand new In Ron We Trust shirts. These things are glorious. You know Ron's my dad, so why not slap him on a shirt? These are limited edition, limited run. So grab yourself ones now. Hurry, right now, go. Alrighty, And that is gonna be a wrap on this sucker. Didn't turn out perfect, but anytime you're trying to replicate something as ridiculous as the one that Tonella Wood did, you're gonna run into some issues, but I'm really happy with the results. It still looks super cool. You get an awesome exposure of the edges in not only the hexagonal and diamond shaped things or whatever, but that live edge in the center. Really cool effect. We didn't get as much clarity as we wanted, and I think that was mostly my fault, but still an awesome looking table that you can have in your house. Don't forget to enter that giveaway that we've got going. Link down in the description, get all the information that you need. I'm really looking forward to seeing it in one of your homes. And after you do that, you let me know, what are we gonna build next?